It is 3 p.m. Tuesday here in Seoul. Hello and welcome to Arirang News. I'm Noadam. Thank you as always for tuning in. We begin with South Korea postponing the start of the school year by another 2 weeks to early April. Education Minister Yoo Eun-hae said at a press briefing just about an hour ago that the education and quarantine authorities have agreed on a new start date of Monday, April 6th. This applies to all kindergartens, elementary, middle and high schools. The spring semester was supposed to start on March 2nd, but it's been delayed 3 times now. It was postponed to March 9th and then to March 23rd. Now it's due to start a total of 5 weeks later than usual. South Korea's finance ministry says the government will closely monitor the risks affecting the financial system and will take measures to stabilize the market at the right time. This is according to the Vice Finance Minister Kim Yong-bum after a meeting earlier today where related officials discussed the economic damage South Korea could face over the growing market uncertainty due to the coronavirus outbreak. He said there's a possibility the outbreak could impact the real economy and the financial sector in a way that has never been experienced before. He added the government will continue to hold financial meetings with related authorities to monitor the financial market and review market stabilization measures. Now, while isolation and social distancing are the right prescriptions to combat the public health impact of COVID-19, the IMF says the exact opposite is needed when it comes to securing the global economy. It called for constant contact and close coordination as it unveiled policy recommendations for governments around the world. Our Kim Yo-sun reports.
The head of the IMF says the organization is ready to use its $1 trillion lending capacity to help countries struggling with the coronavirus outbreak. In a statement Monday, IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva also introduced policy recommendations that can ensure the economic pain inflicted by the virus is relatively short-lived. She highlighted the need for additional fiscal stimulus, including government efforts to expand paid sick leave and targeted tax relief. The statement also urged major central banks to ease financial conditions and ensure the flow of credit to the real economy, as seen through Federal Reserve's interest rate cuts and asset purchases. Against such a backdrop, global central banks took a coordinated response amid the meltdown of financial markets after investor anxiety deepened over the rapid spread of COVID-19. The Fed's aggressive emergency rate cuts triggered emergency policy easing by central banks in New Zealand, Japan, and South Korea. Australia also expressed its intent to join the global move through a liquidity injection. 6 central banks, including the European Central Bank and the Bank of England, also agreed to take coordinated action to enhance the provision of U.S. dollar liquidity. They agreed to lower the pricing on the standing U.S. dollar liquidity swap arrangements by 25 basis points. Such a move will be an important liquidity backstop to ease the strain on global funding markets. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
Now on to the latest COVID-19 situation in South Korea. The country has reported 84 new coronavirus cases today, bringing the total to more than 8,300. It marks the 3rd straight day that the number of new cases has stayed below the 100 mark. Out of the new cases, 32 were reported in Daegu and 31 in Gyeonggi-do province, where cases have been on the rise after a cluster infection was reported at a church in Seongnam. As the number of imported virus cases keeps rising, up to 55 people as of Tuesday, the government is preparing to expand and strengthen entry procedures. South Korea saw 6 more coronavirus deaths on Monday, bringing the death toll to at least 81. U.S. President Donald Trump, meanwhile, says his nation's economy may be heading for a recession, calling COVID-19, quote, an invisible enemy. During a White House briefing on Monday, Trump shifted his tone on the outbreak and said the worst of it could be over by July, August, or even later. In response to business representatives urging Trump and top lawmakers to take action over the economic threat, the president said the market will be, quote, very strong as soon as we get rid of the virus. To help reduce the spread of the outbreak, Trump advised Americans against gatherings of groups larger than 10 people, adding they should avoid going to restaurants and bars. Now, with a little more than 4 months to go until the 2020 Tokyo Summer Olympics are supposed to start, the International Olympic Committee will hold an emergency meeting Tuesday with international sports bodies. The meeting will centre around actions being taken to fight the coronavirus outbreak while preparing for the Games. But despite speculation, officials insist they won't be discussing calling off the event. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
With the world in disarray due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, many major sporting events have been cancelled. With the 2020 Tokyo Summer Olympics set to start in July, the International Olympic Committee will hold a crisis meeting on Tuesday with international sporting bodies via conference call. The attendees will include national Olympic committees and athletes. The IOC says it will be centered around actions being taken to fight the outbreak while preparing for the Olympics in July and August. IOC Chief Thomas Bach and other committee members will also try to answer any questions the participants may have. The contents of the meeting indicate the IOC is still considering holding the event despite the global outbreak. Last month, IOC member Dick Pound told the Associated Press that there is a possibility the outbreak could lead to a cancellation, and they would continue to monitor the outbreak and its dangers as they progressed. However, despite the surge in number of cases and deaths worldwide, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said last Friday that he's still confident Tokyo will host the Olympics as planned. On Monday, the IOC's Boxing Task Force suspended the ongoing European Olympic Boxing Qualifier tournament being held in London amid the outbreak in Europe. In addition, tournaments scheduled for the Americas and the final World Qualifiers in May have been suspended as well. The IOC says it needs a 2 or 3 month window for a potential cancellation of the Olympics, meaning any decision would need to be made by May at the latest. In the event of a cancellation, there's an emergency insurance fund of $1 billion for organizations that require revenue from the Olympics to survive. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
As the coronavirus outbreak seems to be slowing down a little in China, South Korean exports to China have been picking up this month. Industry data shows during the first 10 days of March, South Korea's daily exports to China were up over 20% from the same period last month. However, the daily average was still down 8.2% from the same period a year earlier. South Korea's exports took a hit from the rapid spread of COVID-19 in China, but this data suggests conditions are improving for the export-dependent Korean economy. Auto assembly lines for South Korean car makers, including Hyundai and Kia, are also now receiving key components from China on time and are back operating as normal. Now, with growing global demand for South Korea's COVID-19 test kits, drug authorities here have given the green light to 7 local companies to export their kits. The Ministry of Food and Drug Safety has approved overseas sales for 8 diagnosis kits developed by companies including Seagen, Cogent Biotech and Solgent. These companies have been working on test kits for COVID-19 since mid-January, when infections began escalating in Asia. Each firm is producing enough detection kits to test roughly 250,000 people a week. Some 30 countries in Europe, Southeast Asia, Latin America and the Middle East have made orders for Korean-made test kits. Now, demand is through the roof for protective face masks in South Korea as fears linger over how the coronavirus outbreak will unfold in the coming weeks and months. Shelves have been stripped bare and limits have been set on the amount of masks people are allowed to buy. However, some help may be at hand as South Korean researchers have developed a reusable mask filter that maintains its function even after multiple washes. That said, the mask requires government approval before it can be commercialized. Our Park Se-young has more.
This mask filter, which can be placed inside a cotton mask, was developed to maintain its efficiency even after more than 20 washes using soap. The filter structure also remains unchanged after 3 hours of disinfection with alcohol, which means it can be used for more than a month. Conventional mask filters use an electrostatic method to block particles, so their efficiency wears off as the static energy on the surface gradually disappears and they cannot be washed. But this new filter was made by crossing and aligning fine nanofibers to create small air holes that block viruses while allowing for easy breathing.
The filter is not static, but instead provides a physical barrier so it can come into contact with liquids.
The research team hand-washed the filter using soap, and there was no change in the nanofiber structure even after 20 washes. The filter maintained its structure and 94% of its KF80 to N95 filtration ability after being dipped in ethanol. It also withstood 4,000 crumples and stretches. The researchers plan to commercialize the filter once they get approval from the Food and Drug Ministry. They expect the filter to solve the mask shortage in Korea, as well as reduce the environmental impact of masks when they're thrown away. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
South Korea has been praised for its use of technology to stop the spread of the coronavirus, and local startups are coming up with new ideas to help people find masks to get checked for the virus and work efficiently from home. Our Ji-young has the details.
Faced with a mask shortage amid the COVID-19 outbreak, many people across South Korea line up in front of pharmacies on their designated day to buy protective face masks. But instead of lining up at this pharmacy in Seoul, people enter their mobile number and their birth year into the kiosk, and the system sends them a message when their masks are ready for pickup.
Thanks to this service, people looking to buy protective face masks don't have to wait in long lines in front of pharmacies.
One pharmacist says this method not only saves time but is also safer.
Before using the service, I had to tell the customers that the masks were out of stock about 300 times a day. This service also prevents infections as people don't have to wait in line.
Another South Korean startup company has developed an app called EasyDoc, which directs them to the nearest COVID-19 screening center and lets them fill in medical questionnaires in advance to save time.
Asking patients about their medical conditions takes up a lot of time. Filling out the questionnaires beforehand shortens the time they're exposed at screening centres, and thus they are less vulnerable to possible infections.
The app also offers services for foreigners where they can fill out questionnaires in a range of languages before going to hospitals in South Korea.
The doctor knew very easily what I was feeling without any language barrier or any trouble. So I think that the app was really helpful for me to find the right treatment for my symptoms.
Other startup companies in South Korea are also contributing to the fight against COVID-19. Those contributions include creating an online map service that locates pharmacies where masks are available and offering an online conference service to local businesses that are encouraging employees to work from home. Ji-young, Arirang News.
Okay, that is all the news that we have for you at this hour. Join us again at 5 p.m. for more Arirang news. Until then, goodbye.